Weregild, also known as man price, was a value placed on every being and piece of property in the Salic Code. If property was stolen, or someone was injured or killed, the guilty person would have to pay Weregild as restitution to the victim's family or to the owner of the property. Weregild payment was an important legal mechanism in early Germanic society. The other common form of legal reparation at this time was blood revenge. The payment was typically made to the family or to the clan. No distinction was made between murder and manslaughter until these distinctions were instituted by the reintroduction of Roman law in the 12th century. Payment of the Weregild was gradually replaced with capital punishment, starting around the 9th century, and almost entirely by the 12th century when Weregild began to cease as a practice throughout the Holy Roman Empire. Etymology and related concepts. The word Weregild is composed of were, meaning man, and geld, meaning payment or fee, as in Danegeld. Geld or geld was the Old English and Old Frisian word for money, and still is in Dutch, German and Afrikaans. The Danish word geld and Norwegian geld both mean debt. Geld is also a constituent of some Swedish words, having the same meaning, e.g., Attribution, Gengel, Weregild, and the formal, legal term galdenar. The same concept outside Germanic culture is known as blood money. Words include Eric Fine in Ireland, Galanus in Wales, Veraraha in Finnish, Spira in Russia and Gloszczyzna in Poland. In the Arab world, the very similar institution of diyya is maintained into the present day. Amount. The size of the Weregild was largely conditional upon the social rank of the victim. There used to be somewhat of a basis fee for a standard free man, that could then be multiplied according to the social rank of the victim and the circumstances of the crime. The Weregild for women relative to that of men of equal rank varied. Among the Alemanni it was double the Weregild of men, among the Saxons half that of men. In the migration period the standard Weregild for a freeman appears to have been 200 solida, an amount reflected as the basic fee due for the death of a churl both in later Anglo-Saxon and continental law codes. In the 8th century the Lex Alemanorum sets the Weregild for a duke or archbishop at 3 times the basic value, while the killing of a low-ranking cleric was fined with 300, raised to 400 if the cleric was attacked while he was reading Mass. In 9th century Mercian law a regular freeman was worth 200 shillings, and a nobleman was worth 1,200. A division established enough that 2 centuries later a charter of King Cnutes would simply refer to all his people, the 1200ers and the 200ers. The law code even mentions the Weregild for a king, at 30,000, composed of 15,000 for the man, paid to the royal family, and 15,000 for the kingship, paid to the people. An archbishop is likewise valued at 15,000. The Weregild for a Welshman was 110 if he owned at least 1 hide of land, and 80 if he was landless. Thralls and slaves legally commanded no Weregild, but it was commonplace to make a nominal payment in the case of a thrall and the value of the slave in such a case. Technically this amount cannot be called a Weregild, because it was more akin to a reimbursement to the owner for lost or damaged property. In literature, a classic example of a dispute over the Weregild of a slave is contained in Iceland's Eagle's saga. In the Volsunga saga or Saga of the Volsungs, the Aesir are asked to pay Weregild for killing Otr, son of Redmar. Otr was a great fisherman, and resembled an otter. He was eating a salmon and half-dozing on the riverbanks of Andvares Falls when Loki killed him by throwing a stone at him. Later that evening, the Aesir visit Redmar's house where they are seized and imposed with a fine. Their fine consists of filling the Otr skin with gold and cover the outside with red gold. Loki is sent to get the gold and he manages to trick the dwarf Andvari into giving him the gold as well as a curse ring. The dwarf went into the rock and said that the gold ring would be the death of whoever owned it. and the same applied to all the gold. In the story of Grettir the Strong, chapter 27, the suit for the slaying of Thorgils Maxson, Thorgir conveys to court Thorgils Arasson's offer of Weregild as atonement for killing Thorgils Maxson. In the epic poem Beowulf, lines 156 to 158, Grendel refuses to settle his killings with payment or recompense, and at lines 456 to 472, Hrothgar recalls the story of how Egg the Owl once came to him for help, for he had slain Heatherlath, a man from another tribe called the Wolfings, and either could not pay the Weregild or they refused to accept it. Hrothgar had married Weal the Owl, who probably belonged to the Wolfing tribe, and was able to use his kinship ties to persuade the Wolfings to accept the Weregild and end the feud. Hrothgar sees Beowulf's offer as a son's gratitude for what Hrothgar had done for Beowulf's father. In the novel The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, the Journal of Isildur reveals that he justified taking the One Ring as a Weregild for the deaths of his father and brother in battle. Appendix A of The Return of the King also mentions a rich Weregild of gold sent by Turin II, steward of Gondor, to King Folkwine of Rohan. After the death of his twin sons, Folcredon fasted in battle in Ithilien.